Well, let's talk about some unexpected challenges or pitfalls that you encountered. And how did you try to avoid some of them? And how did you deal with some of those challenges? And I'll ask Becky and Josh to kind of weigh in on this because, as we know, no identity program or implementation effort is perfect. So there were pitfalls, there were some obstacles. How did you deal with those?
Josh, do you want to go first?
I certainly can. The biggest thing that we kind of bumped into was our previous identity platform was managed by a third-party consulting agency. We did not have that knowledge in-house. So what we ran into as we were bringing in a new system, migrating the capabilities from our legacy platform into our newer platform, was no one really knew how any of it was set up because the people that set it up were no longer at the organization. And so we kind of had to do a little bit of trial by fire, and turn stuff on, see what broke, pivoted away from the stuff that broke to fix it. So, that was kind of the biggest thing that we bumped into, was really dissecting and understanding and reverse engineering the way the HR system, our OIM platform, and then all of our source systems or target systems were set up. But some of the other things we bumped into were, some of the out of the box features initially weren't there. Setting up hybrid mailboxes, something that, every user that gets a Outlook license or an Office license needs to have an email set up the way our environment was set up at the time. There was a delay of about 30 minutes, and we had no way of injecting a delay into the onboarding process. So we had to write some custom code to get that to work. And we plowed through it last minute. Everything came live. Some of the other stuff that we had was really not going down the custom code path. We started out early with custom code. We learned real quick that we needed to lean on the SailPoint professional services team to fix that code. So we quickly kind of undid that custom code and went to more out of the box capabilities. So Becky, I'll turn it over to you for anything else you want to call out.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting when I think about, there's so many, I'll call them small because we do this all the time. So you kind of get used to them. But one of the things, that really came to light and probably, it's one thing that I coach clients on all the time, is the general requirement to make sure you have uniqueness for your user IDs, right? So Devin, you being in the GRC space, you can appreciate this. But really, thinking about, when you have a new hire come in, you want to create them an identity that's unique. You don't want to reuse that username. And in this case, where you guys had an HR system that was 3 years old, I think, when we put this in, right? So we had people that were here in some of the target systems that were old, or had been around longer than those 3 years that they were in the HR system. And so we needed to create some kind of a store to capture those usernames so that we didn't reuse them. So we usually call that historical identities. So they're not in the HR system because they're from farther, past than that. And so we needed a place to capture them. So creating a separate source so that we could have identity now check against it. That was, critical to make sure that we were able to meet that requirement. The other thing, and Josh, you mentioned this already, but really that the OIM system, no documented procedures, no clear understanding. I mean, how many conversations did we have where we thought, this person said, this is the process, and this person says, no, this is the process. And in the end, we still couldn't get a solid answer or test it out to be either way. Some people would say something was automated and it wasn't automated. It was a manual process on the side that nobody knew was being manually done. So wading through all of that stuff, and really, lesson learned is, don't just look at what's currently being done, right? Let's talk about, what do you really want? I think that, for you guys, that was really, really important to just say, okay, we're going to accept the fact that we don't know for sure, but this is what we can do and this is the right thing to do.